Good evening and welcome to Election 2020, the Leaders' Interviews, the series in which we talk live in studio to the party leaders about their record in government and opposition, their election promises and why they're looking for the support of you, the voters, on polling day next Saturday. This evening we're joined in studio by the leader of Sinn Féin, Mary Lou McDonald. Mary Lou, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Brian.
Take a seat here. I want to begin with something that's occurred just this evening, and it's a call from Briege Quinn in South Armagh. I think you're familiar with her case. Her son, her 21-year-old son, Paul, was murdered in Monaghan in 2007. It's believed by people associated with the IRA. And she is looking for an apology from Sinn Féin's Conor Murphy, the Armagh MLA. I think he's now Minister of Finance in the Executive. Because she says her son was involved in criminality. She says you should seek that apology from Conor Murphy, will you?
Well, just to say, Brian, the only criminals in this whole scenario were the people who took Paul Quinn's life. I mean, he was brutally murdered. He got a horrible death. And I understand entirely that the family want justice, and that's what they deserve, nothing short of that.
Briege Quinn's particular call to you to get an apology from Conor Murphy, will you do that?
So I think at this stage the best thing is for Conor to speak to Briege and to the family. I mean, as I recall it, there's no question that Paul Quinn was a criminal.
Just to be clear, she told Drive Time this evening on RT she wouldn't meet anybody from Sinn Féin until she gets that apology.
All right, well look,
so will she get it?
There's no question that Paul Quinn was a criminal. The criminals are the people who took that man's life.
Sorry, he wasn't a criminal, I think you mean to say, yeah?
Yes, absolutely. No, but the people who took
the suggestion that he was involved in criminality, will there be an apology from Sinn Féin and from Conor Murphy for that?
I've spoken to Conor Murphy about this issue before. He is very clear that he never said that is not his view, and certainly I will talk to Conor again to clarify that matter.
But she says that's the spin that he put on this.
Well, he says that that's not the case. So,
and it's not just Conor Murphy. It's also Jerry Adams. He was quoted in the London Independent at the time in saying the people involved are criminals. It's fairly obvious to me that the killing of Paul Quinn, is linked to fuel smuggling and to criminal activity.
Well, whatever it was linked to, the criminals are the people who took Paul's life. And I'm not suggesting or saying, and I don't believe it has been said, that Paul was a criminal. And I understand this mother has lost her son, and in the most traumatic of circumstances. So I'm happy to clarify that matter this evening, and certainly I'll speak to Conor.
Just one other point of clarification. Conor Murphy also said that he had spoken to people in the IRA in South Armagh, and he had received assurances that they were not involved. He said very solid assurances. Now, you've called for people to cooperate with the police on both sides of the border. Should Conor Murphy go to the PSNI or to the Gardaí and tell them who he spoke to, who gave him those assurances, and let them pursue their investigation and interview them if they see fit?
Well, I think the job of investigation falls to the PSNI and to An Garda Síochána, and anybody, irrespective of who they are, wherever they live, needs to bring that information forward. Should Conor Murphy provide that information to the police? Well, who he spoke to? I believe that Conor has been very forthright in dealing with these matters. He's told the
PSNI who he spoke to in the IRA. Is that right?
No,
well, should he?
At the time, there was a question mark over who was culpable for this savage murder. And Conor at the time spoke to people who I presume he knew had been involved in the IRA in times gone by. He received that assurance. I think by far the more important thing, Brian, is the criminals who killed this man be apprehended.
And you've made that point. Does Sinn Féin support the continued operation here of the non-jury Special Criminal Court to try serious terrorist and gangland-related cases?
Well, since OK, Mary Lou McDonald, you know, of course, about Briege Quinn, the mother of Paul Quinn, the 21-year-old who's so horrifically beaten to death in November 2007. Now, she is asking for an apology from your Minister for Finance in the North, Conor Murphy, because he aligned her son to criminality. You were due to speak to Minister Murphy today. Did you speak to him to clarify? I did, Miriam, and you're right, Paul Quinn got a horrific death, and the only criminals, to be clear, involved in this scenario are the people who so cruelly and viciously took his life. So I have spoken to Conor.
He is aware that the comments that he made after the murder of Paul Quinn have caused hurt, and that hurt is endured. So he apologises for those remarks, he withdraws those remarks, and he'll speak to Breach Quinn and the family directly. I mean, I've had the view that he needs to speak to the family directly.
I was watching you last night, being interviewed by Brian Dobson, and you said then, and this is a quote from you last night, I've spoken to Conor Murphy about this issue before. He is very clear that he never said that is not his view.
Yes.
So you've changed your position?
In a way, Miriam, what matters is what the family have heard. And what matters is that the family...
What matters is what he said, because actually we found the quote today. It was on BBC in November 2007, a month after Paul was murdered. And what Minister Murphy said was, and I'll quote again him verbatim on the BBC, Paul Quinn was involved in smuggling and criminality. I think everyone accepts that. As I say, this is a very difficult situation, as there is a family grieving. I don't want to add to their grief.
So look, let me just say, those things should not have been said. Those things should not have been said. Conor withdraws them and apologises. Pardon me?
Last night you said they weren't said.
To be honest with you, Miriam, my recollection was that he had not been as explicit as that. The remarks were wrong, they're withdrawn correctly, and will be apologised for directly to Mrs. Quinn.
So your remarks, to Brian last night were wrong too?
Yes, well, obviously I was not. I remembered Conor being not quite as direct on this matter.
But he had told you that he's very clear. You said he never said that, and that is not his view. He had told you he'd never said that. Were you annoyed he'd said that?
That's not it. My sole concern in this is that the family have been hurt. And the remarks made need to be withdrawn and apologised for. That's the correct thing to do.
So
and that's what Conor will
is
do.
Going to, Minister Murphy is going to apologise to Breach Quinn.
That's the correct and the decent thing to do. A family that has lost their son in such brutal circumstances doesn't need the additional hurt and grief.
And very finally on that, I heard Breach Quinn on Drive Time actually talking to Mary Wilson, and she also just said that she would like Minister Murphy to go to the PSNI or the Gardaí and just give the names of the men, the IRA men in Cullyhanna he spoke to. Would he do that now as well, do you think? Because Breach Quinn wants that.
What I am sure of, and I'm sure of these facts, having spoken again to Conor, is that he has in fact spoken to the PSNI and to the Gardaí. They have to investigate this matter. People with information
and given the names of the men he spoke to,
need to bring that information forward.
OK, we want to move on and deal with Brexit. Leah Varad.